Duterte, who has remained semi-retired since stepping down as president, recently made a rare appearance, criticizing Philippine authorities. Blindly aligning with the United States will bring disaster to the Philippines, inevitably drawing the country into a third world war. His reference to blindly aligning with the United States likely points to a series of military collaborations between Marcos, who assumed the presidency, and the United States. While on the surface, U.S. and Philippine authorities defined their bilateral military cooperation in terms of humanitarianism and disaster response, they haven't acknowledged a crucial point. According to the revised Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA, under Marcos's tenure, U.S. military activities such as training exercises and troop deployments in the Philippines will no longer require prior notification to the Philippine government. Moreover, the Philippine government will facilitate more for U.S. military activities, akin to the current situation of U.S. forces stationed in Japan. Duterte disclosed to the media that since stepping down as president, he regularly meets with the Chinese ambassador to the Philippines. During one such meeting, Ambassador Huang Xilian warned Duterte, stating, "Given the current military cooperation between the U.S. and the Philippines, if the Marcos government provides military bases for the U.S. to aggress against China, the Philippines will forever be a target." These words clearly reflect the diplomacy of a seasoned diplomat, omitting some understood aspects. Who will the Philippines become a target for? What kind of target? The implication is evident. If the military cooperation between the U.S. and the Philippines rapidly progresses, and in the coming years, the Philippines becomes a significant military node for the U.S. to attack China's mainland, the U.S.-occupied military bases in the Philippines will inevitably become targets for PLA strategic strikes. Considering there might be a considerable number of U.S. military bases in the Philippines, with blurry distinctions between military and non-military targets, such strategic strikes will undoubtedly affect the Philippines itself. As for the reasons behind the veiled warning, it might stem from diplomatic nuances. After all, Duterte isn't the main driver of U.S.-Philippine military cooperation. During his tenure, such cooperation was strictly constrained, even downgraded in certain aspects. Duterte is unequivocally pro-China, so his words are naturally toned down. However, that's not the crux of the matter. Duterte also exposed another bombshell to the media: the Marcos administration concealed their dealings with the United States. In today's video, let's delve into Duterte's advice regarding the China-U.S. relationship and his warnings to the Philippine authorities. Contrary to official claims of 9 bases, the actual number of military bases the U.S. will gain in the Philippines in the near future is nearly twice that: 17 bases. Additionally, the U.S. might deploy nuclear weapons at these bases, which, at least, doesn't violate the EDCA. And this might just be the beginning of U.S.-Philippine military cooperation. Marcos has only recently taken office, leaving him ample time to further advance this collaboration. As per U.S. media, this exceptional leader, hailing from a family with ties to the U.S.-Philippine military, will undoubtedly fulfill his mission. While many details about the revision of EDCA between the U.S. and the Philippines remain undisclosed to the public, the logic behind the U.S. deploying nuclear weapons in the Philippines is rather easy to infer. The U.S. nuclear force has historically consisted of 2 main parts. The first part comprises strategic nuclear capabilities, aimed at China and Russia, while the second part involves tactical nuclear capabilities primarily targeted at countries like Iran and North Korea, which either lack nuclear power or have less potent nuclear capabilities. This division is based on the delivery methods of nuclear power. Tactical nuclear capabilities are delivered via aircraft or cruise missiles, which, in comparison to launching ballistic missiles, are less politically sensitive and less likely to trigger strategic misjudgments. This system may have undergone some changes in recent years. As mentioned by Blinken, the U.S.-China competition has no clear finish line. What is this finish line? It's the boundary where the competition stops. If the competition has no finish line, it's tantamount to limitless competition, implying that conflicts and contradictions between the two sides can infinitely escalate. This competition can initially involve political and economic aspects but could escalate within this boundless competition, shifting into military competition from military friction to localized conflicts and even escalating to a comprehensive nuclear war. Therefore, deploying tactical nuclear weapons in the Philippines is evidently not aimed at North Korea but is inevitably targeted at China. In a comprehensive war between the U.S. and China, the U.S. will utilize all its nuclear capabilities, including its strategic nuclear forces. From a professional perspective, one major application of U.S. tactical nuclear weapons could likely be targeting China's military base cluster in the South China Sea. Despite these bases being relatively robust from a conventional military standpoint and having proficient anti-aircraft and missile defense capabilities, while multiple large forward military airfields can operate a significant number of air defense fighters during wartime, if even one tactical nuclear weapon successfully breaches defenses, the bases established on small island reefs will inevitably be paralyzed. Duterte evaluated the Marcos government's cooperation with the U.S. on nuclear issues, stating, "The cost is that if U.S.-China relations spiral out of control, then the Philippines will become a massive graveyard." It's hard to imagine what the Philippines would look like in that scenario. The Philippines would inevitably become a target for China's anti-nuclear strikes. This doesn't mean China would launch nuclear strikes against the Philippines. It means that due to the presence of some nuclear capabilities held by U.S. troops stationed in the Philippines, they would become significant targets for the PLA. Because when facing the U.S.'s nuclear deterrence and potential nuclear strikes, China doesn't have many means at its disposal. Duterte told the media, "We must not overlook the possibility of the U.S. deploying nuclear weapons in the Philippines. That's very naive. I believe the U.S. will definitely do so." However, we can't expect Duterte to do anything impactful regarding the current situation as he has already stepped down from the presidency. Currently, Duterte is in semi-retirement, and his only hope might be to support his daughter's candidacy several years down the line when Marcos's term ends, just as he had previously hoped. According to the Philippine Constitution, the country's president cannot serve consecutive terms, effectively limiting spontaneous reforms within the system. Although even Marcos can only serve one presidential term, the existing Philippine structure ensures that even with a pro-China president in power, the system is difficult to shake up in the short term. Strongmen like Duterte can only ensure a generally neutral stance during their tenure. As a country born out of American colonization, present-day Philippines is nominally independent, yet the U.S. continues to control its military operations. This dependency on foreign entities for national security, coupled with the state of a feeble violent machinery that doesn't obey the government, renders the position of the Philippine president a mere title. Duterte's governance during his tenure also relied on his family's influence. Moreover, the political legacy left by Duterte's tenure is now subject to scrutiny. After Marcos took office, there hasn't been a complete rejection of Duterte's policies of maintaining social order and forcefully combating gangster influences. Instead, those arrested during Duterte's term are yet to be convicted or serving jail time. Currently, criminal elements previously apprehended under Duterte's rule are being exonerated one by one, hinting at intentions to restore the societal chaos prevalent in the Philippines a decade ago. Duterte's political adversaries, including Philippine lawmakers who had opposed the war on drugs, are now being acquitted and released by the Marcos administration. From China's perspective in this scenario, domestic forces within the Philippines can no longer be relied upon. It's only natural for a country inherently pro-American, under the leadership of a pro-American president, to stand in opposition to China. Present Philippine actions are just the beginning. After Duterte's vocal criticism of the authorities, the Philippine Foreign Ministry promptly refuted and assured the media the relationship between the U.S. and the Philippines, be it political ties, economic relations, or the friendship between the people of both nations, is unshakable. Simultaneously, the country's foreign ministry announced two significant developments in U.S.-Philippine military cooperation. The first announcement entails the Philippine military restarting joint military exercises with the U.S. by the year's end, resuming routine patrol activities in the eastern region of the South China Sea. The second announcement involves the Philippine Navy's normalization of deploying units capable of executing crucial military tasks in the South China Sea. Based on other sources, this likely refers to the Philippine Navy's relatively limited anti-submarine warfare units in terms of scale and technology. Considering these two announcements separately, the previously stable security situation in the South China Sea over the past few years may cease to exist. The intentions of the U.S. and the Philippine authorities likely aim to provoke incidents akin to the 2016 South China Sea arbitration case in this region once again. This aligns with the objective psychological expectation of the U.S. initiating war, while, on the other hand, the Philippines deploying anti-submarine combat capabilities in the South China Sea marks an essential step in U.S.-Philippine military cooperation. Biden has been attempting to change the existing Sino-American strategic situation. He understands that a war explicitly targeting China's mainland would be challenging for the U.S. to win. Hence, he has shifted the strategic focus toward undermining China's geopolitical interests, a strategy that currently seems feasible and has already achieved numerous preliminary successes. This is the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. We genuinely appreciate your support.